Alright, this is my first YouTube commentary video ever. I'm going to talk you through a flight from this past Saturday. I'm going to kind of be talking over myself here.
Avoid.
That was interesting. They were asking where in the world we were going to set up and launch, and I think I kind of set up
generally that way.
They kind of set up in front of me.
Motor's been acting a little up here.
Or vice versa, who knows.
On the low end of throttle. See what the deal is there. That.
So I was having some trouble with my motor that morning. I replaced the spark plug and kind of messed around with the carburetor settings. It's been a bit of
move.
Bit of trouble for me up here in Denver because we're at a higher altitude, and it's been tough getting the carburetor adjusted just right. It tends to just blacken spark plugs after an hour, but it for some reason won't run any leaner either. It won't start, so it's been a bit of a problem for me. I think we're still working on it, but at this point, I had felt fairly comfortable with it. It still wasn't 100%. It was kind of acting up, but the warmer the engine got, it seemed to be running better. So I figured what would happen is if on takeoff I'm at the 20% throttle mark, if it quits on me, not a big deal. I can just abort that takeoff. It's unlikely that I've never had problems at full throttle with it, so I figured climb out should be fine. If the motor does quit on me, we got plenty of space around here for a safe landing right after takeoff. So you can see the balloons starting to get set up out there. A couple of my buddies are already in the air. You can see their windsocks over there to the left. I'll have to check out where to get that orange windsock. I really like that one. Now comes the fun of starting it. I've thrown my back out once already doing this. And I'm only 31. There we go. So you can see I'm facing into the wind. I got a headwind there. That's what you want to take off. Don't have to work as hard to get off the ground. Don't have to run as hard. You can see one of my buddies already out there. What was nice is I just planned on meeting up with one guy out here, but I think like 4 or 5 showed up around the time I did, and then at least 2 or 3 more afterwards when we were packing up and leaving. So a very popular spot to launch from. Right here I'm just testing out the engine, making sure I can, it's not going to die at 20% throttle again. So far so good. Although I've already kind of laid out the glider as it should. Kind of clearing out the lines here. You can see the grass there isn't too forgiving. It's not really grass, it's more like weeds, and they can grab the lines pretty good. Putting in the second riser here. Kind of go through my checks, checking the balloon again. I'm a little nervous about it, but check all my straps again. Make sure the gates are closed on the carabiners. Trims are set to take off. Take a look at the cascade. Pull those. And what I do here is sort of a mistake, but I'm just kind of getting my throttle hand ready when I notice. I'm like, wait a minute. One of my steps, clear to pulley. Make sure that brake is clear to pulley. It is not. Something got a little bit tangled there, but not a big deal. Caught it before it became any sort of issue. Get the A's in my hands there. Hike up the motor on my back a little bit. Make sure one more time we can get a little bit more power. Just making sure I'm centered on the glider here. even tension in both hands, arms back. Just trying to feel it. Check again. Can I get to full? Clear. A lines are clear, at least. Still watching that balloon. What I want to do is kind of, as soon as I start running, go left, and you'll see how I do that. So they're starting to take off there. I know that they're going to be heading sort of toward me. There we go. So you can see I pulled a little left brake there, checking the tips of my wing. Get a little past that dip in the road and floor it. There you go. Make sure we are clear of that balloon. We're good. Time to climb out. Really checking my surroundings here. This is my first time flying from this location, and I only have about 20 or so flights under my belt, so head is pretty much on a swivel here for this flight. I know I've got at least 2 or 3 other paramotors in the air as well as that hot air balloon, and safety first. All I really plan on doing for this flight, it's not really that exciting of a flight, just going to kind of do circles, counterclockwise circles around this field here. In part because I'm new, in part because my motor has been acting up a bit, and if it does go out, I want to be able to land close by. So I feel safe going on this side of the balloon because I know the wind direction. I know about where he's going to be going. I checked all the winds aloft beforehand, and they were pretty consistent in the same direction. So I know he's going to be heading mostly in that direction. I believe that's northeast-ish. I can be bad with directions, cardinal directions when I'm in the air. So that's the other reason I like staying around the field, is I can lose my car very easily. Surprisingly difficult. You look for landmarks. So here I'm being ultra cautious. I probably could have gotten closer, but I don't want to annoy them either if they've got some sort of guest on there. So I'm going low on the throttle to go well under them, respect their space, and again, staying to this side of them because I know the wind's blowing them the other way. But I had to get that cool shot. Michael down there, hovering over that pond. Love to fly further west sometime when I get a little more experience. There's Boulder Airport right out there, but they kind of hug up against the mountains, which can have some, turbulence around it from the air going, mechanical turbulence and rotor coming off the mountains. So you want to be careful of that. It can cause, depending on the wind direction, it can cause you to sink suddenly or rise. So I think I want to be a little more experienced with piloting before I try that out. Nice and smooth turns. I'm only used to really steering with the brakes so far here. You see one of our buddies there, I guess, has a smoke system on down below. He's making little smoke circles around the one guy that's still grounded. But I haven't really messed with the tip steering yet. I want to in the near future, again, as I get more experience with all of this. Right now, just smooth 3-second pull minimum brake turns are plenty satisfying. See how much further the balloon is in the distance now. Definitely a west to east wind. But I also don't want to go too far that way. You can see there's two towers in the distance. They are definitely supported by guide wires. Is it guide wires or guide wires? I feel like it's guide wires. I should probably know this. Checking again for other paramotor pilots before I make my left turn. You may notice in my videos I check the tips of my wing quite a lot. I did have one experience where my lines unknowingly on takeoff, because I guess I didn't check closely enough, but I believe the tip steering line somehow got wrapped around just the edge of the wing and kept pulling me left. It wasn't a major problem, but definitely caused the heart rate to go up in flight. It made for a little bit of a tougher landing, but I got down, no problems, no injuries, no damage to the gear or anything, but definitely kicked me in the butt to be more cognizant of that. Sometimes that's what you need. See a buddy down there trying to launch. Looks like he is off the ground at that point. He may have had, I can't recall who it was, but someone showed up with an electric paramotor. First time I had ever seen one. Had 4 different propellers on it. Sounded like a bumblebee too, but overall was quieter than mine. Generally you want to avoid flying over homes or anything like that, and that's kind of what I'm doing here, just kind of skirting the edges of this development here, trying to stay just over areas that are mostly just open fields, but also trying to be cognizant of setting myself up for success so that if there is a motor out, I'm gliding to those flat areas. Notice buddy below me. Little right turn to avoid this development. So he's headed further east, but again, I mentioned those towers. I didn't like the wires coming off of those, so I didn't even go close to them. I think around this point I start coming off power. I'm debating how I want to come in for a landing here, whether I want it to be just on this to be my final approach here, or if I kind of want to do one more loop to bleed off some of that altitude. amazing, just a few hundred feet up, what kind of privileged view you have of everything. With, just this piece of fabric and a glorified weed whacker engine on the back. Unreal. Making slow progress here because I'm not really flooring it and we're against that headwind. Decided I'm just going to kind of do one more little mini lap here and come in for a landing, but I'm really checking for other pilots because I know a couple of them are far more experienced than I am in the sport, and we're flying low, kind of cruising around, so I want to make sure I don't get in their way. Come back one more time. See the windsock direction. It had shifted slightly from when I took off. Just want to make sure I come in as best I can at it. It wasn't extreme, but it was... You'd be surprised. You gain a new respect for the wind with this sport. Even just a 5-mile-an-hour wind, if you're landing with that, makes flaring and stopping and landing on your feet quite a bit harder. And you'll see my flare technique is far from perfect, but I can get on the ground. So again, just avoiding going over any houses here. Trying to spot my landing zone. Trying to land in the grass, but I'd rather underfly than overfly the LZ, because overflying is into the parking lot and trees and all that. Underflying, I would just end up in that dirt there, and it was a little wet, so you'd get a little muddy, but you'd be okay. You just need to clean up your gear a little bit. But trying to avoid that if I can. So I haven't cut off the engine quite yet. Coast over this. Feel what the glide ratio is into this wind, because that'll change it. Make sure I avoid the dirt. It does get a little bumpy when you're not on the throttle too, so you'll notice a little bit of shaking. Alright, so we're committed. Getting out of my seat there. Ready to run. Look at the ground. And it overflew me again.
Woo, freaking hoo! Not the greatest glider, but it came in kind of hot. A little bit crosswind. It's a little bumpy on the way in, so not bad.
I think I just meant not the greatest glide. Because the glider's great. Roadster 3, fantastic.
Shit, yeah, we got all that, baby.
I've been having problems with the GoPro lately. It It's been freezing up on me, and the battery life has been something like 15 minutes, sometimes 20 at best, and this was like a 26-minute flight. So glad I recorded all that. Those of you who stuck around, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.